Speaker announcing his resignation. That resignation of the Speaker is a stark indication of the disarray of the House Republicans, a demonstration of their obsession with shutting down government at the expense of women's health, and a sign of the failure of the House Republicans to be willing to engage in dialogue for the good of the American people.
All right, Congressman Tim Huelskamp, as promised, a member of the House Veterans Affairs Committee and new chair of the Tea Party Caucus in the House. Hello, Congressman. How are you, sir?
I am doing good, Steve.
All right. So your reaction to the resignation and to how the left is spinning it, and I'm sorry to say some of your own congressional members in the Republican Party, like Congressman Peter King, seem to agree with Nancy Pelosi to one extent or another.
Well, a week ago, Nancy Pelosi's folks were saying, boy, they hoped John Boehner would stay on the Speaker because he was so weak. And that was the statement going around, and I agree with them on that. But the reason John Boehner is not going to be Speaker come October 30th is he's lost the trust of Republican conference. He didn't have the votes to stay as Speaker. Most importantly, though, John Boehner represents the Republican establishment in Washington, and they certainly have lost touch and trust of grassroots conservatives across America. So I think this is a day the establishment's lost. John Boehner's had a long, storied career, but as I thought 2.5 years ago, it was too long. It was time to move on, and finally we have enough folks that agreed, and he decided to step down. He did that in that classy way, but now there's still this battle going on. Is the Republican Party going to work for conservative principles that we all campaign on, or is that just going to be election year rhetoric? And I think we have a chance to actually put our words where put our mouth where our actions where our words are, and hopefully that'll happen soon.
So when Boehner says that he did this to protect the institution and he didn't want turmoil, basically he's referring to what you just said, correct? He knew.
Well, he knew. He knew he didn't have the votes, and if there was a motion to vacate the chair, he would not have won that without Nancy Pelosi, and that would really been embarrassing for a Republican Speaker to have Nancy Pelosi keep him in the job. But John Boehner promised in December of 2010, I remember, I was sitting in the basement in the Library of Congress, 300 years of American history surrounded me. John Boehner stood up, he said, I'm going to defend this institution, we're going to have an open debate, we're going to do our job, we're going to use our power over the purse to take on this president, and we're going to let you vote your constituents, your conscience, your conservative principles. Within 4 months, in my mind, I thought he had failed on all those accounts. So it got so bad that just a few months ago, John Boehner's out attacking conservatives instead of Barack Obama or the EPA or even Planned Parenthood. You know, Super PAC ran ads against sitting members of Congress. Yep. Then he comes to us and says, please vote for me, after we voted to stand up to President Obama, and he hits us up with super PACs. And those kind of things showed to me he was very vulnerable. It was not a question of if, but when he would no longer be Speaker.
All right. Ted Cruz has just said moments ago that he believes that Boehner has cut a deal with Nancy Pelosi to basically fund the president's budget for and what he wants on everything, including Planned Parenthood and Obamacare, right on through the rest of Obama's term. Do you believe there's been some deal?
I think that certainly could be. I do not know the extent of it, but every day John Boehner waits for us to do our job of sending out a spending bill to keep the government open, to suggest that this has been his plan all along. But the only thing John Boehner has left to lose are his pro-life principles. He told us in conference 3 weeks ago, a month ago, 2 months ago, that he was the most pro-life speaker ever, and he's always voted to defund Planned Parenthood. What a tragedy, as my kids say, an epic failure, if he would, as his final action, pass a bill that funds an entity that traffics in baby body parts, and he cried over those videos. There's been 10 of them. He said he's going to do something about it. He walks away and makes sure they have funding. If that's the deal he agreed to, then he has given up that last vestige that he could have done something about. So he still has that chance, and maybe he'll be inspired by the Pope not only to, I guess, resign, but actually do something with his last 5 weeks.
I referred to Congressman Peter King. He called people like you, I assume, crazies.
Well, Peter King can have his opinion, but he's in a much smaller minority today. He lost his speaker. I understand why he'd be upset. I mean, Peter King did basically whatever John Boehner told him. As a result, he was easily reelected. He could raise millions of dollars off of special interests, but nothing ever changed in Washington. And I understand Peter King and his ilk, they do not want to change Washington. They're part of the establishment. But today they lost. Their world is turmoil. They're trying to find somebody else to take John Boehner's slot so they can follow someone else. But you know what? Conservatives, particularly if you look at the Republican primary, 50 to 60% of the people are telling we don't want any more John Boehners, we don't want any more Peter Kings, we don't want any more Mitch McConnells. We want people who actually govern the way they promised they'd govern. And sometimes you have to fight a little bit for your principles. But that's the way it works.
All right, so do you get behind McCarthy for Speaker, or who would you like to see as Speaker?
I am not supporting anybody today. What we are planning on doing as conservatives, particularly through the House Freedom Caucus, we're going to start interviewing people that want to run for Speaker and come forward and not only tell us what the principles are, but tell us, hey, were you involved in going after conservatives? How would you run this House? Will you let Republican conservatives have amendments like you do the Democrats? I mean, it was shocking. John Boehner would let Nancy Pelosi have more amendments than Jim Jordan. And so we will start interviewing people on Monday. That's the plan. Nobody has 218 votes today, but, oh, man, it is in a turmoil up here. The establishment had not planned on that, but they have a leadership ladder. They're planning on probably everybody moving up, but I'm planning on saying, hey, what is going to change? Because if we don't change leadership in Washington, D.C., and really change it, not just change the position and the name on the door, but change how we operate, I don't think we can win.
Are you going to interview yourself, Congressman? Do you want to be the
Speaker? I am not.
Okay.
I am not.
Just asking. All right, Congressman, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it, sir.
All right, thank you so much, Steve.
My pleasure. All right, Congressman Tim Huelskamp, ladies and gentlemen. A great day for conservatives on Capitol Hill. We will be back next. The Malzberg panel. Don't go away.